Good morning. Today my guest is Lynn Wendt, who I have known for a long time now. She's always doing something interesting and creative, and in fact, you are one of the people that I use as an example to do videos. The videos you were doing in front of the monuments on every
Yes.
subdivision.
Yes.
I talk about that in every class.
Cool.
I do it all the time. So I'm going to ask Lynn to tell a little bit about herself, but she sort of started to do some very interesting things. So would we start by telling me, Lynn, about what you did in your past life and in your real estate life?
Okay. Chronologically, as a child, I've always considered myself to be a writer. Written poetry, essays, fiction, nonfiction. So I've considered that my whole life as a writer. My corporate career was in IT project management. So I delivered complex software development projects. And I was also quite often part of a think tank, a global think tank through the Project Management Association, PMI. And then when
Wait a minute, that's a kind of interesting mix to have someone to be on the creative side and then go to the IT side. Kind of an interesting combination for you.
Okay, so the truth is, when I graduated college, I was an anthropology major, and there wasn't much you could do with that. But I had worked for my father, who had an IT service bureau in the 50s and 60s. So I used that to get my first job at Allstate. So I just stayed in IT for about 35 or 40 years.
Okay.
And then when I left corporate America, as they say, I joined my son, B Realty, his brokerage with other partners, because of my project management experience, to kind of set up processes and procedures and help build the training, help build the foundation. But I got the bug, and it was the first time I was in a non-political situation and started working with clients one-on-one. And so I got my real estate license and then my managing broker's license and all sorts of certifications. I love networking, so I became very involved with the Women's Council of Realtors. I was a president of the North Shore Network and then the state network. So I loved networking and building those relationships. So everything I've done has brought me to this point as a ghostwriter for entrepreneurs. I've also been
All right, back up a minute here.
Okay.
A ghostwriter for entrepreneurs. That is is that your new job title? That's going to be the new job title?
Well, that's what I do. My company
Okay.
is called Empower Writing Services.
Okay.
And so I spent maybe a year or so building my brand and content website, and I'm on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and building my connections. So, and I also have a background. We've had a few family businesses, and my father and my grandfather. So there's an entrepreneurial spirit through my family. So I'm bringing everything forward to this, and my career in real estate really helped because I realized the value of working one-on-one. I like to go out and network, but I'm kind of an introvert at heart. So I love working with people one-on-one and listening to their stories. And I think it's important in this day and age to write those stories down. So that's one of my products, people who want to tell their business legacy stories, because these stories are so impactful and so thrilling. Not everybody ends up like a Cliff Bar, that sells their company for $1 billion, but these stories are just so beautiful. And if you write it, and even if you self-publish it, if a grandchild or a great-grandchild picks it up somewhere along the line, it's well worth it to leave your legacy. You've worked so hard. The other product I do, my other effort is to help entrepreneurs grow their business by writing a book. And it is the content of the book. It's how you market the book. It's the credibility that the book gives you that helps you generate business. And within that, I do focus on real estate professionals, because I think there's a lot of reasons for them to write a book to help them grow their business. It's really
Have
a
you got
business
an
case.
example? Have you got an example of one that you're doing or using?
Well, I am writing a book now for somebody who sees the value of networking. So telling that whole story.
The story.
I just started, so I have had a few clients, and I know it'll grow over time.
I believe in the power of stories. I am a big believer that people remember stories, they don't remember the rest.
They do.
They remember the stories, so I think that's critical. One managing broker I know not here on the shore, but around in our NASBAR's network. She's hiring a storyteller.
She is.
To teach her agents how to better be able to tell their stories.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think with the changes that we're having in the in the way we're going to do business, people are going to have to tell their stories a little bit more.
Yes, they will.
They're going to have to sell their value, understand their value, and be able to demonstrate their value. I've been teaching something and talking about every one of you has got to have a hero story.
I think that's true. The hero's journey
Yes.
is one of my favorite all-time frameworks that I've thought about for years and years and years. And so I think the hero's journey applies to little small, excursions that you take, or the big excursions that you take. And I think it is really important to tell your story. When I talk to clients, there's a few things that are important for the side of growing your business, and that is to understand why you're writing the book, to understand who your audience is. That's so important. A lot of people write a book and they think everybody will be interested in it, but that's not the case.
That's not true.
It's your North Star. Who are you writing that book for? What do you expect them to get from the book, and what do you expect to get from the book? But another tenet, I think, is tell the stories. You might have a lot to say, but back that up with stories, because, like you say, that's what people are going to remember.
Tell me those points again. Go. Who your audience is.
Who your audience is. You got to. We spend a lot of time on discussing who's your ideal reader. Who, if you're sitting having coffee, who you're telling this story to. It's got to be, somewhat specific, because I've had people come to me with these enthralling memoirs that they want to write, and they think the audience will be everybody. Everybody will want to read the story, but it's not. Everybody might, but you're writing it for kind of a specific audience. You're thinking through who is going to read your book. You're thinking through, why am I writing the book? What is the person reading the book going to gain? And what do I want, from the book? Do I want more clients, real estate? Do I want to pivot my career? Do I want to be a thought leader? What is it I want? You have to think that through. And then tell the stories. That's so important. And then think of your return on investment. What is your return on investment? If you're writing a legacy book about your family business, and you want to self-publish it, and a grandchild or a great-grandchild picks it up someday, and I have a story that happened to me with my great-grandfather, that is worth the time and effort. If you want to grow your business, and you're expecting more clients or 2 more transactions a year, if you're in a luxury market, whatever, you have to kind of think through your business case. And I would recommend that people write on the business side of it for reuse. So you can start telling people about your book before it's published. You can start posting on social media about the content of the book. You can start to improve your value proposition and your credibility before the book is published. But having a book, gives you that extra credibility. And if you kind of format your book, for reuse, for blog posts or whatever, then you're creating content that is just not so singular. And then if you're, if you're a real estate agent or whatever reason you're writing your memoir, you kind of have to think about, like I said, what your ROI is. Do you want to be a brand? How do you want to market your book? How do you want to publish your book? Those are all questions. They seem daunting, but if you take it a step at a time, then you arrive at a place that makes sense for your goals. If that
I think
makes
it's
sense.
always good to start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Start there and then
Yeah.
work backwards.
Yeah.
Are you helping people with the actual compilation of the story, the creation of a physical? Are you creating a physical book for people?
Yes, that's my intent. I'm a ghostwriter. So if you're, say, a real estate broker and you think it through and you want to be a thought leader or you want to attract more clients, but you're busy, you can spend 15 or 20 hours with me interviewing, and I could do the heavy lifting, whether it's 100 or less or more hours. So yes, I write the book. I write the book in my client's voice. Once it's published, nobody knows about me. It is the client. It is their book, not my book. I'm just writing it in their voice. It's a service. It's just a service for people. And then I can guide them, through the back-end processes, like talk about the different types of publishing. You need a cover design and you need editing and that type of thing. But I am the writer of the book in my client's voice. That's what I do.
Okay, but you also will do then the back end of the back end, or you will guide them to where to find that.
Exactly. I will guide them to where to find it. I don't think one can be a writer and then a top-notch editor. I don't have a publishing company. But I spent, just like with real estate, I spent a year or more building up these relationships. So depending on my clients' needs, I can talk them through self-publishing or hybrid publishing, which is sort of a menu of what you choose depending on how you want to promote your book and edit your book and all that. And traditional publishing is much harder to break into. But yeah, I can guide them. If they want to self-publish, I can guide them to editors and cover designers and that type of thing. So
Okay.
yeah, it's just like with real estate. You develop your relationships with your lenders and inspectors and all
Yeah.
that. You don't do the work. Attorneys, you don't you don't do that
We
work
never
at all.
never do that, yeah.
But you can
Yeah.
recommend somebody who will, take them to the end goal.
This is a really interesting idea for someone who's, well, it could be for someone who's brand new, but I actually think about this for someone who's been doing this a while
Mm-hmm.
and is tapped out in terms of they know their business inside out.
Mm-hmm.
They could teach their business to someone, but they
Exactly.
don't have the time to do that.
Exactly.
I like the word you're using, the legacy.
Uh-huh.
You do a legacy of this.
Uh-huh.
Would also be a great idea for someone who is looking to go into the coaching business.
Exactly. Coaching
Yes.
or speaking, if you're giving speeches here and there and you want to be a keynote speaker and
Yes.
get more revenue, it's revenue generating. It's
Yes.
a business decision. Having a book and just distributing it, not expecting to make money from the book, but distributing it so somebody goes, oh yeah, and I read her book and she's a thought leader on this or she knows this stuff. I'm going to, at a women's council, National Women's Council, or, at one of the association meetings, she will be hired. She has more of a chance, she or he, to be hired as a keynote speaker. Same with consulting, You could write your book. You could create a course from your book. There's so many things you can do to monetize,
I have
what
another
you know.
friend who is writing. He's
Yeah.
on his second book,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
he is also one of the world's best networkers, and he has found an actual publisher
Mhm.
who is now
Yes.
looking at some. I mean, he's
Yes.
looking to publish his book
Yes.
to live, to be in the library kind of book, that
Yes,
kind of thing.
yes.
But it's been a long time. What
Yes.
kind of timeline are we talking about for doing this?
Well, I would say if you're going to self-publish the book and you want it for a family legacy or you're distributing it to clients or at speaking engagements, it might take 9 months, give or take, start to finish. Hybrid publishing sort of, there was traditional publishing, which is hard to break into if you're
Yes.
not well known, if you don't have an agent, plus they distribute the book for you, but the timeline is longer. It might be 2 or 3 years, and the risk of not being accepted is greater. There's self-publishing, which opens up the world for so many people that they can now publish a book
Yes.
and take on all those
And you can sell it on
things.
Amazon if I'm
You
not.
can sell it on
Amazon.
Amazon. And then there's hybrid publishing, which offers sort of a range depending on the publisher. There's so many of them. Some of them, you have to have a little bit of skin in the game or money on the table. Some of them will do the editing and the promotion for you. Some of them expect the book to come all edited. I just really couldn't go through everything all the
Yes.
services they offer, but there is that opportunity to engage with reputable publishers who will promote
Will
your
promote
book and
with that.
distribute it. So if that's what you want, and Amazon, you can put it out there, in print on demand. One thing I want to say that really inspired me is growing up, I had this memoir from my great-grandfather, 50 years in the wool and fur trading business.
And he wrote it?
He wrote this in his 70s, so I think that's why it's resonating with me now. I read it every decade, but it's really resonating now. So he wrote this because he felt he had a lot to offer to people who were coming up in the business. It was sort of benevolent. And it's also sprinkled with family stories, and I wish there were more family stories. But you can also extrapolate like his business values, the family was the foundation, the perseverance through like World War I, where they took all of their product, the way he pivoted, the relationship building, all those things are just in this little compact 60-page memoir. And when he was 70, he was in business with his brother who passed away, so they liquidated his business, but he didn't feel he was done, so he started a second iteration of business with 4 of his daughters. And so now here I am, and I had met them when I was younger, my great aunts, and I so lament not asking them their story about being, I didn't know enough in my 20s, but being in business with their father, in the 1940s, it was really forward thinking. And, his sons weren't so interested in the business.
So he took the girls.
But he took the girls, and I love that story. And so if he wrote this story, and he has like so many great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren, and one of them is enthralled with it, like me, and I find inspiration in it to run our own family businesses and to reach out to people and help tell their story, then this one little effort really, I'm not saying I'm an influencer, no, by any means.
You can be one.
But
you can be one to be all right with me.
little story, can help a lot of people be inspired to tell their story too.
I'm always interested. One of the things that fascinates me is the idea of unintended consequences. That you do this, and then all of a sudden something, sometimes not wonderful, but a lot of times something wonderful comes out of this, out of the blue that you didn't even expect.
Exactly.
I think you're doing a really interesting thing, Lynn. I want to thank you for being here with me today.
Oh,
I'm really
thank you for
interested in
having
this.
me. Okay.
You're welcome. Just a note, the views of our guests may not reflect the views of the North Shore-Barrington Association of Realtors.